No mai, haere mai. Welcome to the Maxim Institute podcast. My name is Jason Heal. I'm the Communications Manager at Maxim Institute, and this is our weekly short-form podcast. These podcasts are released in tandem with our weekly column and are a chance for you to hear in-depth from the column's author about some of the thinking that went into producing their final piece. Today we talk to Maxim researcher Natasha Baulis about her recent column. Natasha, welcome back, round two for the podcast. It's great to have you with us.
Thank you. Still so pleased to be here.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we're talking today about another column that you've written for Maxim, Tea and Ceremony and the Coronation, the Importance of Shared History. And this was to do with the coronation of King Charles. And just last week, actually, there was an interesting opinion poll that was put out saying that something like 70% of people think that King Charles should abdicate because he's just not a good look for the royal family.
He's off brand.
He's off brand.
Right.
And I think that's so appropriate for a world that is so obsessed with brand and image and how we communicate ourselves. But it kind of misses the point.
The purpose a little bit of a monarchy, doesn't it?
Yeah. So maybe explain that to us a little bit more.
Well, I think one of the important things about a monarchy is it's largely representative.
Yes.
Particularly in this day and age where they don't have a lot of their own power. The idea is that you end up with the monarch that you deserve, and that principle derives from the fact that a society raises up children, we educate our children, we inculcate them with our cultural norms, and then we end up with who they become as grown-ups. And so if you're not happy with who King Charles is, then you need to take a little bit of a look around.
Yeah, look in the mirror and blame yourself like,
That's
we created this person. Yeah. Oh, wow, that's fascinating. And do you think any of it kind of, in the column you wrote that kind of around the coronation there was a general apathy displayed in New Zealand. Do you think part of the result of that poll is to do with that? Kind of like, well, we're on the other side of the world. How does King Charles
If he was a bit cooler, we would have bothered to celebrate.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a good point, but I also think everyone loved Queen Elizabeth, and yet there was an extraordinary degree of apathy in celebrating her death, in terms of commemorating it and turning out and doing something to acknowledge the extraordinary queen that she was. So I don't know that...
Did we even have a public holiday for that?
I believe that there was a public day off.
Yes.
But I think we've also forgotten the distinction between a day off work and a public holiday.
Yeah, that's right. And something... to a day
actually
off for a
event.
purpose,
That's
right?
Yeah, and how we're going to mark it other than getting an extra load of washing done.
Yeah, that's great. So general apathy around the coronation, around all things monarch. And it's really interesting that you say a lot of people love Queen Elizabeth because in her lifetime, a lot of former colonies left the Commonwealth, didn't they? And left and became independent countries.
That's right, yeah.
So it's fascinating that she was popular, yet she oversaw kind of the breakup of her Commonwealth in many ways.
Yes, although I think it would have been much worse if it weren't for her.
Yes.
I think that when you look at her legacy, it was her personal and familial investment in the Commonwealth. She was sending people or travelling herself. I mean, the amount of work she was doing up until the year of her death is just extraordinary.
Yeah, well, a few days before she died, she instituted a new prime minister.
That's right.
Yeah.
And at the same time did welcome new member countries into the Commonwealth. So there was a lot going on there.
Yeah. That I think we maybe don't hear about here on the edge of the world. So you make the case that shared history, these ceremonies and celebrations are a good thing and should be celebrated. Why are they a positive thing?
I think celebration, much like rites of passage, help to mark the progress of time, the change of seasons. And I think that we're missing a lot of opportunities to do that. I think we recognise that with the passing of Queen Elizabeth, we also see the passing of an era. And what is this era to come? We don't really quite know yet what that's going to look like. And if we welcome in the era of King Charles, and we celebrate and we say that, you know, there's something to look forward to, you're signalling hope to a whole generation of people. And I think we're missing the opportunity both to celebrate what we have accomplished and to look forward, hopefully, to what we can work towards together.
Do you think there's also a sense of a shared story around that as well, of coming together and creating sort of a
shared narrative?
Yeah,
of,
and like
society.
Anzac Day,
Absolutely.
or this is part of who we are. Yeah.
And I think you know, we talk about the polarization of society. I think that this has a lot to do with it, that we no longer look to our shared histories. Now, you know, that they're not completely happy histories. It's like a family history. There's some sadness there. There's a lot of hurt there, but there's also some wonderful expressions of love and accomplishment, and it is what we have in common. And so how do we build on that shared platform and still talk about the things that we'd like to see changed into the future? Yeah.
So how do we stand on what's come before and look to the future with hope?
That's right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Perfect. Great, Natasha. Thanks for being with us. And now let's hear from Natasha as she reads her column.
As a foreigner newly arrived here, there's much to delight in, but I don't think I will ever be able to get behind gumboot tea. Don't get me wrong, I think the analogy is perfect. The tea certainly resembles something that I have poured out of my gumboot after a particularly wet country tramp. I just don't know why New Zealanders are so proud of it. Tea should be poured generously into beautifully painted, fine-lipped cups from your grandmother's silver teapot, warmed with piping hot water before a long-leaf tea is steeped at a comfortable 90 degrees. The pot is then turned, thrice clockwise, half a turn counterclockwise, and there are biscuits, shared with a friend or a stranger. Convenience, ergo tea bags, is, well, helpful, but beauty is essential, as is ceremony. If a cup shared between friends is cause enough for fanfare, how much more an historic event like a coronation? Queen Elizabeth's in 1953 did not come at a particularly agreeable or convenient time. Food rationing was in place, but the celebrations were so memorable that grandmothers were still talking about them over their coronation chicken 60 years on. This is why it has been disappointing to see the general apathy towards anything remotely resembling pageantry for the recent affair. Christopher Luxon informed us all that we didn't need any more time off. And I quote, "I mean, I think we've had a lot of public holidays this year. I think New Zealand needs to get back to work, really." And Christopher Hipkins said he was in favour of a republic anyway. Perhaps that's a Kiwi thing. Happily for them, they could enjoy the festivities in the UK regardless of their published indifference. There are many reasons for countries like ours, former colonies with troubled pasts and strained presents, to forego the expense and hassle of a coronation. But for all that, the monarchy is not irrelevant. Even if it doesn't hold much power today or disappears tomorrow, it is not merely a significant part of our history, but the basis for our legally established government. This is something we mostly agree on. The most recent poll shows that half of us don't support Chris Hipkins' Republican aspirations. And more work? As philosopher Joseph Pieper puts it, work will always be with us. The demands of the working world grow ever more total, grasping ever more completely the whole of human existence. The coronation has been and gone, but it's never too late for a little ceremony. Pause convenience. Have some cake and a cup of tea, properly brewed. Reflect on the glory it is to be a person among people with hundreds of years of shared history and a common future. Advocate for the human being, not the human doing.
Thanks for listening to the Maxim Institute podcast. If you'd like to hear more from us and keep up with the rest of our research and analysis of politics and policy in New Zealand, you can sign up on the homepage of our website to get our monthly forum email and invitations to future Maxim Institute events. You can search and subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. From the team at Maxim, mā te wā. Goodbye for now.